Hello, this is Brian. Today is June 7th, 2020. It's a Sunday afternoon. I'm in the Angeles National Forest at Rosenita Saddle. Today I want to present a spotlight on trees. Today's episode focuses on a variety of live oak that is very common here in Southern California and is also found scattered in other parts of California. We have here the Shrubby Interior Live Oak. This is Quercus wislizeni variety frutescens. This episode is specifically about variety frutescens because Quercus wislizeni has at least another variety, which is variety wislizeni, the interior live oak. Now, the interior live oak is what the name implies, a live oak. It stays green all year long. Both varieties of interior live oak have these kind of roundish leaves, sometimes a little bit uneven at the base. Sometimes they're spiny, sometimes they're not. A lot of times that depends on where on the plant the leaves are growing. This is fairly typical of interior live oak right here. Kind of ovate shape, a little bit uneven on the bottom. Sometimes sometimes curling slightly down a little bit. See some more examples here. And these are the those are the leaves that are in shade, so that's why these leaves are larger. These leaves need to be a little bit larger so that the surface of the area is enough for it to catch the dappled sunlight that comes through the canopy. So, both Quercus wislizeni variety frutescens, which is this, and Quercus wislizeni variety wislizeni basically have identical shaped leaves. The leaves, you can tell higher up in the canopy, are smaller, and they are not always toothed. A lot of the reason why the leaves are kind of spiny toothed towards the bottom of the tree is to hopefully deter herbivory, keep animals from browsing the foliage, which doesn't always work, fortunately. Let's see if I can get some more canopy leaves here. So these leaves are a lot smaller. They're higher up in the canopy and get more sunlight. You see, there's a big variability in the shape of the leaves of the interior live oak. Some of them are sparsely toothed, like this one. Some of them are regularly toothed, and some have smooth edges. Here's another example right here. Sometimes it makes oaks hard to tell apart. And the interior live oak is a member of the red oak group, the Lobatae or Erythrobalanus. They are characterized by most species having their acorns ripened in 2 growing seasons, as opposed to 1 like the white oaks. And the bark of interior live oak on younger branches is kind of grayish, kind of smoothish. Kind of like, not unlike this young sapling right here of interior live oak. But when the trunks get older, it's much more common on the tree variety opposed to the shrub variety. I'm going to go into morphological differences very soon between the two varieties But the bark on older trunks is grayish and lightly furrowed. As you can see here, lightly furrowed. This is on a much older trunk. And now we're going to dive into the specifics of Quercus wislizeni variety frutescens. Again, this is the focus of the video is variety frutescens, the Shrubby Interior Live Oak. Well, frutescens basically means shrubby in Latin. And again, judging by the characteristics of this oak, it's shrubby. It's got many stems, probably one huge root burl, which we'll go into a little bit later. They're probably all connected to the same root system. Likely this one as well. This is probably all one clonal thicket of Interior Live Oak. The Shrubby Interior Live Oak variety frutescens is much smaller in stature, a lot shorter in stature than the tree variety wislizeni. So as you can tell, it's not a large tree. We'll try to zoom out, see if I can get a good view of how tall it is. Let's zoom out a little bit here. It's not a very tall plant. This one's maybe about 15-20 feet tall, and this is actually one of the largest specimens I've ever seen of Shrubby Interior Live Oak. The main variety of Interior Live Oak has generally one single trunk or maybe a couple. Now, there have been some circumstances where I've seen multi-trunked tree varieties, but like I said, much less trunks than on here, the Shrubby variety. So the Shrubby variety is the variety by far most common here in Southern California. Here in the San Gabriel Mountains, San Bernardino Mountains, San Jacinto Mountains, Santa Ana Mountains, in Orange and Riverside counties. And likely, I believe these might also range up into the Sierras, but typically the ones I've seen in the Sierras, and I've only been to a few spots in the Sierras, are typically variety wislizeni, the tree variety. So this one's probably just about as large, maybe almost as tall as it could get. And that all depends on fire damage, because this area is subject to very frequent fire. As you can see. So the Shrubby Interior Live Oak is very common here. A lot of times if you're on a hike, chaparral, it'll be scarcely more than a head-high shrub. And in exposed, very dry sites, that's very common. Also common in areas that are frequently disturbed. In fact, the hills around here are filled with lots of Shrubby Interior Live Oak. Very common here. It may be confused with a tree, another type of oak here called the canyon live oak, and I'll show you that so you can see the differences in the bark, because the leaves are kind of similar on both species of oaks. This is a canyon live oak right here. Difference is, well, canyon live oaks can be small and shrubby like this. They can also be much larger. In fact, getting much larger than the Shrubby Interior Live Oak. And it's one of the larger species of oak around. But here, canyon live oak, again, leaves are kind of similar, so just be aware. But the bark is a little more furrowed and flaky plates. So this is the canyon live oak bark, Quercus chrysolipus, so keep that in mind. Usually a Shrubby Interior Live Oak about this size will have fairly smooth gray bark. And in fact, I think I see one just over here, a smaller variety. This is a lot more typical of what you're going to see with Interior Live Oak. Right over here, in fact. This is a little more along the lines of what you're typically going to expect with Interior Live Oak, because it's usually pretty small, and again, the name suggests it's shrubby. And again, plants with trunks this size, they have a little grayish furrowing, but predominantly, I don't know if you can see it very well, have kind of a light, kind of a almost smoothish gray. This one's starting to furrow a little bit because this one has a little bit of age to it. So, another thing is with the acorns. The acorns, let's see if I can find an old acorn cup. Acorn cups on both species are very different. This is pretty typical of an acorn cup for Quercus wislizeni variety frutescens. Except a little break there. Small, and the acorn is kind of like a coast live oak acorn. If you're familiar with coast live oak, Quercus agrifolia, their acorns are kind of narrow. In fact, the acorns are very similar on both of them. In fact, both of them are closely related. They're both in the red oak group. Canyon live oak acorn cups are usually much larger and kind of have a goldish gray color when they're young. Can't find any really good examples of acorn cups from Quercus chrysolipus for contrast. And the acorns are usually much larger and fatter and rounder on canyon live oaks. Just keep that in mind. So, the idea that they're multi-trunked kind of stems from the fact that their nature has them adaptable, makes them adaptable to fire. So, Interior Live Oaks have a huge root burrow inside of them. So, all those trunks that you saw widely spread apart, that's all from one humongous lignotuber or root burrow. So we're going back to my example here. You might have seen this Interior Live Oak featured on one of my videos from a couple years ago. I was really proud of this beautiful tree-sized Shrubby Interior Live Oak, so I had to film it. So I have featured this one once before, back in 2018. But I just wanted to come back and do a formal spotlight on trees. Like I said, this is a pretty outside specimen. This one hasn't been disturbed in a long time, so it's been allowed to grow many thick trunks that are almost the size of a regular Quercus wislizeni variety wislizeni, almost as thick as some of their trunks. And again, all one clonal thicket here. There's a big lignotuber under here. So next time you're in the SoCal mountains, they're usually in the larger ranges, but I believe they're supposed to be found in the Verdugo Mountains near Burbank, and I've also seen one near the city of Walnut in near Buzzard Peak in the San Jose Hills. There's a small thicket of them over there. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it was a little long-winded, and I'm showing the specimen I've showed before, but I'm just so in awe with this Interior Live Oak that I wanted to make it official, make a spotlight on trees. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this entertaining and informative, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.